Welcome to the Alchemy of the Soul podcast, and I have the deep and pleasurable honor of being here with Dan Cohen, who has been in this work for a very, very long time. And this video specifically is more geared towards people that have been familiar with this work for a while. So we'll just dive right in.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for being here, Dan.
Oh yeah, I'm glad to. It's really nice. I'm glad you're doing these little segments for share the work.
Yeah, and specifically, I'm really wanting to elaborate on the deeper benefits of just being present in the field and with this work. And one of those things is not just working on the past, but the awareness, the deeper awareness of these family and systemic dynamics that help us to navigate life in real time, to facilitate the constellation of our life, as you will. So I'm curious about what's that for you?
Well, I mean, I'm living with this perception process all day long. I mean, I facilitate constellations for individuals. Emily and I have a training program that we run. We each have individual classes that we run, and et cetera, et cetera. But when we're not doing that work with others, we are applying these principles in our just about everything. So if we have to decide something, we tune in. We sometimes test. We'll set up just an A or B constellation.
Right.
Or we look at like a hiring question. We just hired someone to help us with some systems work in the organization. And so we tune in, we test, we set up, we look at different options, we kind of feel into what are the dynamics. And any question, there's always just a kind of linear surface analysis. But anytime you close your eyes and just allow the awareness to drop in, you both become aware of a system, but you're also pulling in the greater consciousness that supports us. So we're always able to use the same channel that we're using in representation and facilitation to be able to be of service to clients and students.
Wow. We
can use that for our own life to be able to answer the small and big questions. Sometimes even just at a restaurant, and Emily's not sure what to order, she'll ask me to close my eyes. Or she's running around, can't find the car keys, and we're late for something. And where did I leave my car keys? Where did I leave my car keys? I go, did you close your eyes? And she's like, oh no, I forgot. And she closes her eyes, and then she's like, oh, okay, there they are. So we're using it for everything, really.
Yeah, as a tool of divination to not only make decisions, but to just to tune in about what's present.
It's opening up our perception. So we're not only working with the ordinary five senses of perception that we're accustomed to, but we have this access to multidimensional consciousness, which is also, evolution put it in our bodies, and culture took it out. In a sense, culture kind of put a lid on it, and for centuries has taught humans that it's dangerous to be able to use that level of perception for oneself. And so it has been conditioned out of us, but we're opening it up and we're doing it with ourselves. And that's a lot of what our training is not just the X's and O's of how to facilitate, but how to perceive. How to perceive and work with ancestral consciousness, earth, and nature consciousness, and spirit consciousness to be able to open the channels of perception, and then to be able to understand how to integrate it into real life, all of the kind of decisions and the movements of real life.
Absolutely. Excellent. So we both train facilitators, and so on that note, I would like to ask you, what is it that you feel is important to for someone that's beginning to facilitate this work? What what is the attitude, intention, processes? What is it that you want a facilitator to know before beginning to facilitate this work?
I think, there's so much, but to kind of condense down, one thing that's really important for us is we work with a client's intention.
Yeah. Oh, good.
And so we're not solving problems. In a sense, the problem will come in, and we are looking at those aspects, but we're beginning with what the desire is, what the intention is. And it's really important to have that, because if you begin with the problem, it's too easy for the facilitator to fill in the solution. But the solution will come from what the facilitator thinks the person needs, rather than what they have declared is what they want. So the first question is always, what is your intention? What's your desire?
That's music to my ears, Dan. I feel like that's what I want facilitators to know too. Number one. Yeah.
Right. Great. And that frames up the whole constellation. That as a facilitator, I'm then aiming to fulfill that person's desire. And then the next question is, well, what's in the way? And then that's when the problem, the block, the obstacle makes its entrance, and then we're working with that. So that's one essential. The other is, and from the beginning, I always had this question: when you put representatives in a constellation, and they start to report, where is the information coming from? How does a representative just randomly standing as somebody's grandmother, and then they're reporting as the grandmother, the focus client will say, oh yes, my grandmother was just that way, my grandmother used that phrase, or whatever it is, they can identify. How does this stranger access that information? And at the beginning, Bert Hellinger didn't answer it. He didn't even address the question. He said, we don't know. And there was a lot of attempts to either make it more mystical or more scientific. Kind of went in two different directions, that it's kind of in the brain, somehow from the brain of the client through mirror neurons or some other process, or intuition. But what I found over thousands of constellations is that we are channeling the consciousness of the ancestors, or whoever it is. That we can, our bodies have this incredible perceptive ability to be able to read into the quantum information field, and all the information's there, and we can direct it like a satellite, a dish of your satellite TV dish. You can point it, and so we are accessing ancestral consciousness from its source, and so it's training the body to be able to do that, to be able to use our body as an organ of perception. We work, it's not necessary to work with plant medicine. Plenty of people don't, but a lot of the people that are working with plant medicine really opens that channel, like right up. So people that have some experience with those kind of journeys kind of come with, their aperture has been opened. And so we can use that to be able to use the access. We don't work with substances in our work, but we do work with the pathway, a similar pathway. And it's not necessary. Many people are good facilitators and representatives not needing it. And you can work without it, but it's the same pathway that gets activated. And then the third thing is that in the work that I'm doing, from where it's arrived, is I'm really doing ancestral healing, and the relationship between an incomplete or troubled or traumatized ancestor at the end of life, that something's left incomplete in that node of consciousness. And it is vibrating in the body of a living descendant.
Yes, yes.
And the constellation, I mean, we can, in the classic form, we're working mostly family dynamics. I'm working much less with family dynamics and much more with transgenerational trauma that is held in cellular memory, and then tracing from there to the source ancestor and actually doing a healing for the ancestor, which is to allow them to complete their ascension.
100.
And then when that occurs, it seems like there's a change in the epigenetic marks in the body of the descendant, the focus client.
You can feel it.
Right, they feel it. They feel it as a full body release, as a weight lifting off their shoulders. There's goosebumps. There's different markers of it. Sometimes feels like it's going into out the bottom of their feet or just draining out of their body. And it's a really powerful release, and it tends not to come back.
Yeah.
You know, I worked with a woman that just for years and years and years, she was in her 40s, just this horrible anxiety, which was physical sensations in her body. It then gets attached to the things she's afraid of.
Yeah.
She's afraid of this, that, and many things. But at the core, it's a physical sensation of this fear activation. So something stimulates it, but it's in the body. I did a constellation. We found an ancestor, and she literally felt like a gate had opened, like at a sluice gate, and she just felt the anxiety drain out of her body.
Wow.
And it didn't come back, and about a week or two later, she was having breakfast with her daughter, who's like teenage high school student, and her daughter said to her, you know, the strangest thing has happened to me. I suddenly feel I have so much less anxiety in my body. And it just happened from out of nowhere. She hadn't talked to her daughter about this, but her daughter asked her, said, it's so strange, suddenly my body has so much less anxiety in it. And I don't know what happened, nothing changed. But I have
Apparently
so much
it
less,
did.
right, I have so much less anxiety. So this is just an illustration of the release and the relief that comes. And so it's, that's the third part. It's all long-winded answers, but it's ancestral healing, opening the perception, and working with a person's intention.
I love it, Dan. I really love your articulations there. I say a lot of the same things in different ways.
Right, I can hear you're vibing with it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. And you know, I feel like there's a lot of emphasis on removing the blocks or letting go of the karma and the traumas that exist in our family system, and that's where a lot of people start with telling people about this work. And I feel like the primary intention for me is that when we do that, we find greater resonance with our greater soul, our ancestral field. And that's what we want. And what you're talking about when there's an ancestor that has unfinished business, they're kind of trapped in the wayward, they're like a wayward spirit. And I see it every time that we bring resolution there. I see the spirit going into the light. And we're free in souls.
Exactly. Right.
So it's so beautiful to hear you articulate that.
Right. One of the participants at the conference today spoke of, we did an exercise in the morning that kind of called in a lot of traumatized ancestors, but there wasn't, there was no release process. And then the next session in the room was a holotropic breathwork session.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And so she participated in that, and she felt exactly what you're describing. When she had her eyes closed and did the breathing, she felt all these presences that had been pulled into the room through this 120 people doing this group exercise of kind of acknowledging who's missing in their lineages. And so 120 times, you know, how many got in? It was a crowded room, and she was laying there, and she's developed a talent over the years to do release.
Wow.
And so she was doing the holotropic breath work, and she just saw, just as you're describing, just saw this ascension of those that had kind of been called in, being released into the light. She was walking on air when she came out of that.
Wow. Yeah. I really love this work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So do I.
Yeah.
It's been the greatest gift for me.
Yeah. It's on the soul level.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Which, I mean, I don't know if you can get much deeper than that.
Right. It gives what I've described in this process, it allows the soul to inhabit a human body that is not entangled with what happened to the previous human bodies that produced this one. You know, that it all spills over. So our soul comes to have a human experience, and it's like getting into a dirty rent-a-car or something that, you know,
I like that metaphor.
The back seat hasn't been cleaned out. All the pizza crusts are on the floor and whatever, the gum wrappers, and so this process is like, you know, cleaning out the vehicle that our soul inhabits, and then our soul gets to have a human experience in a human body, which is the greatest creation of evolution on Earth. Is this animal body that we're inhabiting with this soul that is self-conscious and self-aware and has all this creativity. It's this cosmic awareness that comes in for human experience, and because of human history, the bodies are so loaded up with unprocessed trauma. And because the living humans, the indigenous, used to clear it all out. Have you been to Bali?
Well, I haven't been to Bali yet.
Bali's Hawaiians. No one does it. I haven't seen it anywhere like Bali, where they wake up in the morning and they clear the ancestors. They acknowledge and they pray to the ancestors, and they do it at lunch and they do it at dinner, and it's a place that they don't have traumatized ancestors in Bali.
Yeah.
Because they work clearing them every day. That's their practice. But for English speakers, we're not allowed to clear any of our trauma. As culturally, it's forbidden. It's literally forbidden. We just have to, put your head down and carry on. That's in terms of the English language. That's the syntax of English language: is put your head down, shut up, and keep working. And so it accumulates in English speakers and with whatever lineages we come from.
So you're speaking about the embedded lexicon matrix of the English language and its limitations for consciousness therein. Is that what you?
Yeah, it's a language of conquest. It's the reason I'm speaking English is because the English conquered North America. Hawaii, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, the Caribbean, Hong Kong. I mean, all the places where English is the primary language have been conquered.
Yeah. The way I like to describe that to help people have a deeper understanding of how language affects our consciousness is that, like the Hopi didn't have a word for mine and yours. Mm-hmm. So what does that do for your consciousness when that isn't part of it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And they had practices. They understood what I'm describing is well known in all the indigenous people all around the planet.
Yeah. Totally.
But because the English were set on conquest and conquering, it doesn't favor that activity.
Yeah.
To be sensitive to trauma, because it is traumatizing. What they're doing is traumatizing. Just that the Mayflower came to the coast of Massachusetts, and within 10 years, 90% of the coastal Indians had died of disease. Right. And they came to villages that were already depopulated, that the structures were there, and the people had all died. So right from the start, they are not allowed to mourn, to look at their own guilt or responsibility, to feel like, is this right or wrong what we're doing, to take account of the human cost of their activity. It's from from the first the first step onto the continent, that is extracted out, and then all the way across the continent. And then after they had displaced the Native Americans, and they import kidnapped Africans and put them to work. So there's just a lot of trauma in conquering this continent, and so it doesn't serve that activity to be highly sensitive to the trauma one's creating. Right. The way it's to ignore it is in service of that kind of conquest, and so that's how it's done.
Yeah, it feels like the U.S. is very unique in that its culture is the most disconnected. It's just a culture of mostly uprooted folks, as to where you go most anywhere else, and you have deep roots, ancestral roots.
Absolutely.
And this place is just like, because like I compare, in Mexico they have Day of the Dead, where they honor the ancestors. And here we have Halloween, and we give candy and be scared of the ghosts and goblins, instead of like, no, that's your grandma. That ghost is your grandmother, and it's time to say hello to her.
Exactly.
Or your great-grandmother in the spirit world.
Right, exactly. So all these practices, that Day of the Dead's a great example of honoring the dead and allowing them to have their place, even if it's for a day. But even that is clearing. It's acknowledgement, honoring, and then receiving the blessings, which is what we're doing as facilitating constellations is it's a gringo version of some of these ancient practices that are not available to us anymore, and we're recreating them within our own culture.
Yeah, I like to say that a good constellation ceremony, offered as ceremony, that it's an opportunity to do just that and to connect with our ancestors. I live on the island of Kaua'i, and I was talking to one of the indigenous folks there, and he was showing me his genealogy that goes back to like 400 BC.
Really?
And I was like, well, how do you know? How do you, where do you keep the record of that? He's like, it's in our chants. We chant and chant and chant, and it's been passed on. And I was like, wow, so beautiful. Like when it's a practice, you go to someone's house, and before you enter, you both chant your ancestors together until you find the common ones. And I thought that was really beautiful.
Wow, that is, amazing, the oral tradition. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Right, and they do, when I've been on Hawaii working with native Hawaiians, my experience there, at first, of course, they're very skeptical because it's, I'm coming from the mainland, and but then there's a point where they recognize that there's a value in an indigenous tradition kind of wrapped in a mainland language. And they could kind of connect to it that way, that there was a utility, even though their original practices are preferable and more intact, that they are also lack the same credibility. But coming from the mainland with an equivalent practice, but in a kind of a psychotherapeutic wrapper, was brought advantages just in terms of credibility and access. I was actually invited to go to the Youth Detention Center and work with staff at the Youth Detention Center.
Oh, on the islands?
On Oahu.
Oh, really?
To do a staff training. And by the end of the second day, they recognized that it wasn't new for them because they're used to ancestral practices, but what was new is basically aioli coming with ancestral healing work in a westernized wrapper. And they thought, well, this is something we can use, because we can't use our our traditional practices. They won't let the state and the different levels of sign-offs.
Oh, okay.
They won't let them. They won't let us use them. But we can get. We could use this and kind of fit it in, and they kind of took it over and found ways to introduce it to the curriculum with the staff to work with youth. I got a report back from one of them that he did worked with one of the troubled youth and just planting taro with him, and explaining that taro is traditionally its ancestors are represented in the taro root.
Yes.
And he was able to kind of combine constellations and this ancient, the indigenous practice, and kind of have a breakthrough with this young man.
Wow. Beautiful. Yeah. So before we wrap it up, I was curious. So you do a training each year, or for facilitators?
Right. We have what we call alchemical constellations training. It's called ACT. People know it as the ACT training.
Okay.
And that's a year-long program. We have the next one starting up mid-April of this year.
Okay.
And that's a year-long program. It's just the things I'm saying. I mean, we teach the X's and O's of how to facilitate. We have the background of Bert Hellinger about conscience and good and guilt and innocence, and the orders of love, and the setup of the family system. But we're also working with a lot of embodied practices. So we work with rhythm and drumming, ceremony, altar constellations, different ways to allow to work with the body. So that we're doing the constellations from an embodied rhythmic place.
Excellent.
Rather than just kind of moving objects around on the floor.
Sure.
And saying sentences. I mean, that's in there, but a lot of the training is about embodiment and to be able to work with the transcendence of the soul without bypassing. And
is that in person?
It's a mix. We have two live weekends in the Catskill Mountains, April and October.
The Catskill Mountains?
Catskill Mountains in New York.
Oh, okay, cool.
Upstate New York.
Yeah.
So those are 5 days. Excellent. And then we have the rest is on Zoom, weekly classes.
Wow.
On Zoom.
Cool. And
we also, because of all the travel issues that people have this year, we're doing the lives hybrid. So people can come live, or they can also Zoom in. We're going to have it, we have a kind of a TV setup, a studio setup in our space, and so we will be, we have multiple cameras, and we'll be able to film and live stream the live event. And then there's a requirement over the next 2 years they have to attend one live somewhere, but we're traveling different parts of the world. So we're teaching them that, and then the other really important component is to create community. So we have there's a Sing with Your Heart community, which is global. Emily and I mean, you're sitting talking with me, so it's not like a higher top center. I'm not like a spiritual leader that is everybody is look right. We're holding.
You don't offer Kool-Aid or anything.
No. Yeah, right. So it's a community. I say that it's loosely held and strongly felt. And there's you've probably met people. We have a lot of people here at the conference that are graduates of our different programs, but the community aspect of it is really important. Because they are now co-creating all over the place. They're pairing up in 2s and 3s and 5s, and creating and combining modalities. We've got one Gene Keys group
cool.
They're off and running. Et cetera, et cetera. There's all types of things, and they're all kind of creating and support each other. But the point of it is that constellation facilitators tend to be kind of siloed. It's a little bit of a lonely practice because it hasn't reached the critical mass and popularity that you put your sign up and just your practice is filled.
Right.
And so people have to kind of do the website and have the kind of harvest clients, and it becomes a bit of a solitary effort. And so we're creating the community of support. We have a number of WhatsApp channels that people participate. They post their offerings. People join each other's offerings, or they're co-creating. And we've also had situations. We had one of our students, her husband had a brain hemorrhage, and so people like really gathered around and supported her and her husband in that recovery. So it's not only professional, it's also personal support through the community.
Excellent. And so how do people tune in? Like, what's your website? Or?
It's Sing With Your Heart.
SingWithYourHeart.com.
Awesome. Dan Cohen, Emily Blayfeld.
Okay.
And hopefully if Emily's doing her work, which I know she is, I don't mean to suggest anything else, but she's worked to make it available. The website, we're on Instagram, we're on the different social media channels. You can find us, and
awesome.
So yeah, if anybody is, if you're out there, look us up.
Thank you so much, Dan.
Yeah.
I really, really enjoyed this interview.
Yeah, so did I. This has been great.
Yeah,
I really appreciate you inviting me.
We'll do another one again soon.
Excellent.